Wisdom of Solomon 2:10. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the aged. Let our strength be the law of justice. For that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. Call halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen nations, that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black only thing. It's an Israelite thing. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth, a very crucial message. Once again, do not get it twisted. The Hebrews of the Bible today are the so-called Negroes, Native Americans, and the so-called Latinos, and those of our people that are scattered among the other nations that have the appearance of those heathen nations. This is not an anti-semantics thing, as now it's being called in France now. All right. And the purpose of this lesson, matter of fact, let me read this first. Deuteronomy 33:29. For happy art thou, Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by Yahweh, the shield of thy help, and who is the sword of thy excellency, and thy enemies shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. So now that we come with the evidences, all right, that beyond a shadow of a doubt prove who the Israelites are today, and that clearly not the people who hide behind the anti-semantic shield constantly. All right, because that is a serious cognitive dissonance and denialism. When you prove and show the evidence, they overlook and dismiss the evidence from in front of them. Perfect example. All right. You've heard me speak on it many a times that Title 4D is out of The Hague, and that any law that goes against the law of the land in America, this is how you know who rules America, these lobbyists from that nation over there in Western Asia. All right. But any law that goes against the law of the land, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. All right. Is repugnant to the Constitution and are null and void. All right. Law of the land. The general misconception is that any statute passed by legislators bearing the appearance of law constitutes law of the land. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and any statute to be valid must be in agreement. It is impossible for a law which violates the Constitution to be valid. This is succinctly stated as follows. All laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null. Let's lighten that back up. Null and void. Marbury versus Madison. 5 U.S. C. Cranch 137, 174, 176, 1803. Now, here we go. The Hague, in context of military discussion, all right, refers to, and it's the Hague period, all right, typically refers to the International Criminal Court located in The Hague, Netherlands. Now, the International Criminal Court found Benjamin Netanyahu and many of his staff to be guilty of crimes versus humanity. We're going to show you the double standard here. All right. This court is established to prosecute individuals for the most serious crimes of concern to the international community, including genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. The U.S., for example, has not ratified the ICC treaty and has taken a stance against its jurisdiction leading to the Hague Invasion Act, a law designed to protect U.S. military and officials from ICC prosecution. So, in other words, it said, here's a more detailed breakdown. The Hague and the IC is a permanent international court that sits in The Hague. It has power to investigate, prosecute individuals for genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crime and aggression. But U.S. military, all right, are immune to this. So when they're caught or seen committing crimes in Western Asia or anywhere in the world, they are not subject to the Hague, unless you're a U.S. citizen, and unless you're a military person, U.S. citizen who happens to get caught up in Title 4D child support. Then all of a sudden the Hague has jurisdiction over you. Title 4D child support is out of the Hague. So what they're showing you is a complete and total unjust double standard, because it says in the law, all right, and I have the Hague, the Hague, their booklet on their law, and it says in there, all right, that it's out of the Hague, and it is definitely of a foreign treaty, and according to U.S. constitutional law, it is illegal. All right, so this goes for soldiers, but it should go for civilian, because it says to place a U.S. citizen under a foreign treaty. The Hague is a foreign treaty, but since they can make money off and oppress their own citizens, they don't use this same protection for soldiers. They'll protect you from committing murder on foreign lands, all right? But they won't protect you from being denied due process under Title 4D from the same place. You see? This is heavy, heavy evidence of fraud, of lies, and cognitive dissonance. I'm saying all this to come to show you something very, very important. Right now, let's look up cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, all right? And these are all AI overviews from Google. Cognitive dissonance is a physiological discomfort of persons experience when holding two or more conflicting beliefs, values, or attitudes simultaneously. This discomfort motivates people to try to reduce it by often changing their behavior, justification, perception of the conflicting elements. Here are more detailed breakdown. Cognitive dissonance arises when there's a contradiction between what a person believes and what they do, or between two beliefs that they hold. Now, they know that the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the actual Israelites, that they're not Africans, that they're not, that natives are not so-called Asian as far as being connected to Ammon and Moab. All right. The Asian, because Israel, the land of Israel, sits in Western Asia. Hence, therefore, making the so-called black man Asian as well. Even the Muslims have that part right. They refer to themselves as black Asiatic men. Why? Because the land of Israel sits in Western Asia. They have cognitive dissonance over that. That's why they renamed it the Middle East. All right. They renamed that portion of Asia the Middle East. They renamed another portion of Asia Eurasia, or Europe. All right. Why? Well, because it disproves all their lies. All right. And so when you catch them in their lies, okay, because they dismissed my case, even though I just showed you that it is illegal to put, I've proven over and over again that it is illegal to place a person, a U.S. citizen, under a foreign treaty. The Hague is under a foreign treaty. But when it comes to crimes against humanity, dealing with the small hats, dealing with U.S. soldiers fighting wars for the small hats and murdering people, dropping bombs on people, sniping people on their own homeland, in their own country, in their own front line, then The Hague has no jurisdiction. But when they can, oppress you financially, then they give you jurisdiction, even though you cannot put a U.S. citizen under a foreign treaty. All right? And these people are horrible, man. They're horrible, and they're caught and they're exposed. I just watched the video with the beloved brother ICR, how basically Europe and basically the global South are disconnecting from the West and not buying or participating in the purchasing of Western goods, as far as Coca-Cola, Tesla, Starbucks. They're going local. And all this is building up to that Third World War that the nations hated to hoard, that shameful spewing on their glory. All right? Now, they're doing the same thing with this truth. Because this wasn't just about my case. I don't think it was that. All right? Because I'm actually repealing it. I'm going to put them against themselves, Esau against Esau, because I can actually repeal their decision. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I have the evidence that proves that I'm right. And even more so, I have the evidence and have presented the evidence, the same as my fellow constituents, as same as my apostles and elders and teachers, the bishops above me, right? That we indeed are the children of Israel according to the Bible. All right. So what did they do? They're using denialism. All right. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of it. So the water, shout out to my beloved April O'Neil on the spot. Journalists always coming with that heat. But here's a video that I must play for Yasharallah. So here it is. Let me turn the sound up and play it, because we know this is coming. And it's all going to be null and void, because this is coming out of France, and France is decoupling from the West. All right. Although they're probably going to try to pull that here too eventually. All right. But remember, France is decoupling from the West. But here we go. Denialism. Let's read it. A proper term for ignoring facts to support a false narrative and is denialism. All right. So when you bring the evidences against them, they come with, they either ignore the facts or they create facts. This is a term described by the act of denying or refusing to acknowledge the existence of truth, validity of something despite the evidence of strong proof to the contrary. So the strong proof is that the scriptures, the history, the relics, the prophecies in the Bible prove that the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the Israelites. When not only does are we saying that the people in the land of Israel are frauds, but for the most part, the rest of the world and other Edomites are telling you the same thing. Because what? They have denialism, cognitive bias, specifically confirmation bias, where individuals actually seek out to interpret information that confirms their existing beliefs while ignoring the contradictory evidence. Our evidence that proves that we're right and that they're wrong, they completely ignore. All right? Or they won't bring it up in the court so that it stays out. It is often involves provocation or deliberate misleading to protect a narrative. That would be Judaism. That would be the people in the land of Israel. When it tells you in Zechariah that a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, basically fraudulent people. All right. It also involves provocation to or deliberate misleading to protect the narrative. Denialism can be used to maintain a false narrative by selectively focusing on evidence that supports the false narrative and dismissing evidence that contradicts it. And most of the evidence that they have has already been proven to be completely false in the first place, which is why they selectively ignore the evidence that contradicts the lie. All right. Okay. Then it went and gave an example of the Holocaust, but it won't say anything about the information that contradicts, the facts about that particular thing. You had to throw that in there. But nevertheless, here we go.
IUIC just got banned in France, and here's why. Les Pétitions put out an article stating that Israel United in Christ is prohibited in France. The article states, the IUIC, the French branch of an American association of the same name, promotes a message according to which Black, Hispanic, and Native American population are the real Israelites, says the government in its decree. A de facto anti-Semitic speech to which are added multiple.
And they call that an anti-Semitic speech when this is also said by so many Jewish people, Jewish writers. All right, from going back to the 1700s. So many books declaring that the natives, all right, are indeed of Hebrew Israelite heritage. They were keeping customs. More Hebrew relics were found among them from the ancient world than any other group of people. Yet people want to ignore it. Matter of fact, they just recently found a bunch of gold and stuff in Puerto Rico with all these Hebrew relics with Hebrew writings from the ancient world. And yet they just want to ignore these evidences.
Hatred from other communities, which earned him this dissolution pronounced on Wednesday. So since IUIC teaches that the Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the indeed Israelites, according to Deuteronomy 28, Leviticus 26, Jeremiah 17:4, that truth has now become a hate speech, violence, and anti-Semitic, and has been outlawed in France. In the book of Psalms, chapter 83.
So there you go. So he goes on to read Psalms 83, which breaks down, the Confederate, and it talks about Esau, Edom. It tells you, as a matter of fact, if we can get some receipts here. I got a couple for you real quick. Here's one from Moab, mother of all talk shows. All right. Amot, mother of all talk shows. Israeli Jews have no ancestral DNA connection to the Middle East, which is not completely true. But they're not the people of the Lord, because they are connected to Western Asia. They're just not. They're the Edomites. Edomite Jews began to call themselves Hebrews and Israelites in 1860, Encyclopedia Judaica, 1971, volume 1023. And that's that denialism, because this information supports what we're saying. It supports the absolute truth coming from the horse's mouth, from their own people, from their own scholars, from their own bloodline. Yet they, point 3 in that elaboration, denialism can be used to maintain false narratives by selectively focusing on evidence that supports the false narrative and dismissing evidence that contradicts it. Here's another one. Esau, Edom is modern Jewry, 1925 Jewish Encyclopedia, volume 5, page 41. They are not Israel or Judah. Facts. Elaboration. Point 1. Denialism is a form of cognitive bias. All right, cognitive bias, specifically confirmation bias, where individuals actively seek out and interpret information that confirms their existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidences. Same thing happened with, this thing that involved a medical thing that killed and is still killing people today. People are still dying of myocarditis and different heart issues and what do you call it? Respiratory issues as a result of that lie. Even one of the main protagonists of it is now being formally charged by the White House. So these people are sitting in they're being found out, man. And it just looks bad because they're being found to be liars. As simple as that. This is and this will help speed up and also get us to the famine of the word. All right. And it is definitely coming because Esau is feeling the heat. All right. As globally as, the Israelis have lost popularity, their businesses are starting to collapse worldwide because the world is coming against them, not buying their goods and services, choosing local alternatives in different parts of Asia and in Europe and in Europe is in Asia. All right. Matter of fact, before I even read again, let me pull out that receipt because there's always someone new. All right, let's pull out that receipt because I did say it. You're always gonna have someone. So let's find that receipt real quick. And here it is. This is from the Winston Simplified Dictionary Encyclopedia edition. Oh, no. I take that back. This is actually from the Oxford Dictionary, 1850. That's where this one's from. All right. Eurasian. Europe, Asia. The compound Eurasia. Of or pertaining to Eurasia, Europe, and Asia, considered to be forming in reality one continent. All right, so it's not 7 continents; it's only 6. Europe and Asia is one continent. Once again, denialism. These Edomites gave it a false divided it and gave it 3 different labels. Where you in Europe, Middle East, and Asia, when it's all Asia to fit the fraud, which and the lie, which is white superiority. And the problem is that they're being exposed, they're being found out, and they can't hate it. They hate it. They absolutely hate the fact that they're being exposed. And it's just that time that we're living in where they're being exposed and the world is rising up against them. This is Obadiah, which is the whole book. All right. And Obadiah 1:6, and it says, how the things of Esau searched out. How are his hidden things sought up? Right? And then through this Bible. And then right here, verse 7, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. See, the world is coming against them. Those that were with them are now against them, have laid a wound under them. All right? The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, and there is none understanding in him. All right? So the rest of the people in Eurasia, in the part of Europe that you call, the part of Asia you call Europe, they're against you, including the ones in France who are speaking or doing this act in the behalf of the small hats, but it's to no avail. Once again, France is now against America, right along with the rest of Europe and basically the rest for most of the world. It is simply that time. They're being exposed and shamed. This is shameful spewing upon their glory, and they are liars, and they're being found to be liars, and so they just want to make laws and then ignore their own laws when it catches them up, like this whole thing with the Hague, with the ICC, and yet Title 4D. So right here, in the Hague, you cannot bring American citizens services. See, International Criminal Court they're ignoring it. All right. That's America's stance. All right. Hague Invasion Act, American Service Members Protection Act. Well, guess what? It tells you that it is illegal to put American citizens under a foreign treaty. The Hague is a foreign treaty, so you have no jurisdiction over them. All right. But you allow Title 4D, which is out of the Hague, just so you can make money. Who was behind that? Small hats. This is Job 13:4. But ye are forgers of lies. You are all physicians of no value. So the Lord is getting ready to smite these people and bring them down. He's shaming them continually. All right. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Quadash, Kwam, Yasharallah, Abad, Babal.